Well, I started thinking a little bit more about how I described and how I looked upon my first coming to this building. And I realized that there is something really significant about moving into a space that is going to be realized by my presence and the presence of those around me. It's a little bit unnerving, it was, to make that decision. But once I did, then there's a real pioneering kind of a feeling about knowing everything we do in this space, about this space, with each other, all the practices, everything is unique. It's not been done before here. And the space influenced how we got together too, just having all the line of studios together and who was next to whom. And there was just some kind of a synchronicity, I guess you could call it, about us being the new kids in the building and realizing it in a completely different way. No more sewing machines and ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-chinka sounds and manufacturing, but really something that was going to be handed over to us and was going to be ours to develop. Right. And it's very different than now. When I left and then I came back, it was coming into something that had already really been established. And also, the neighborhood was really established. It had a character that was way more cultivated. When we first moved here, it was not dangerous as I thought it was going to feel. Okay. It wasn't, but it might have felt that way. Instead, it just felt kind of, in a way, romantic, because it was like the way I imagined New York could have been in the old days, because I wasn't here in the old days. I arrived in 88. Mm-hmm. The way the building was at that point had just been floor by floor was being reclaimed, and this was the third floor. I don't even know was on the first two floors. This was all studios, and we were all pretty much 85 feet deep and 18 feet wide. Same kind of feeling I got when I was on 14th Street in the old days, when it was still the meatpacking district, and there was still, they'd pour bleach on the sidewalks every night, and you'd get the smell of the bleach washing out the meat. And then there was Izzy's Donuts right downstairs from me. And so it was like this confluence of different smells. And then you'd see the transvestite prostitutes walking. It was just a real New York experience. Yeah. And this was kind of like that. And we were just sort of making our way through it. It was great.
So you were part of the first class. The first,
yes. And I still haven't graduated.
Yeah, exactly. There's no graduation. But that must have felt very special to be here and to see the studios sort of pop up and to be sort of like, on the foundation of this community. Like the first ones to come in, the pioneers,
Yeah, and
it's very exciting.
It is very exciting, and we didn't think of ourselves as a community. We didn't have that overview. Yeah. We were just, artists coming together, and we didn't really think about, because New York really has that history of very exciting communities and enclaves and artists helping each other, and it was, very kind of bootstrappy, and it didn't feel like we were part of not an experiment, but a becoming. And yet we really were. And I guess that's the thing about communities. The ones that you sort of plan, the parties that you are, really trying to plan, and they just, they have to take their own life. You really have to let go. It doesn't ever work out when it's manufactured somehow. I mean, not in the best way. In the best way, it's just, Uncle Toad's Wild Ride.
Yeah. I've heard a lot about this block during that time. Can you describe it?
It was very much an industrial place. There was a building right across the street that's no longer there, and there were those were renegade artists that were living and working there. But other than those few studio spaces across the street and this building, it was nothing. It was just still industry. I think this building, Arlene probably mentioned that it was I don't remember what they made, but it was
like textile garment stuff.
Yeah, I think so. So it was, so Raymond, Mr. Naftali, and his wife had bought this building, and he had made a lot of money in development and real estate. And he was one of those rare people that decided, I really want to give something back to the community. I want to support artists. So he bought this building with the intention of it being for artists, and the rent was going to be accommodate an artist's budget.
Yeah.
And so this was a floor where we all got to know each other. We ended up partying at least once a week.
So I can imagine being here in the 90s with a brand new studio and getting to know people and just, I want to do my thing. I want to get, And I think most of us come in here every day with that attitude. I want to come to my studio. I want to do my thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this has brought out the community. I'm meeting people. We're connecting. We have a shared interest in what's happening. We're trying to support each other. We're giving each other advice, comfort. All of those things are part of a community that it's hard to put into words. It doesn't need to be put into words.
Everything was about good relationships, welcoming relationships, helping each other. It just felt, it was so supportive, and there was so much camaraderie that it was just, and it's wonderful to know that that's still going on today, even though everything has changed. As far as the community is concerned, I get a continuous sense of fealty. There is at least a smile, and New York's kind of that way anyway. It's not so surprising, but I guess there's just a trust that I feel about being in this building, and I don't think I can describe. There's just that feeling of it's my clubhouse. That's it's my sanctuary that I go to be with myself or with a couple of colleagues, because I share the space with others now. But I'm lucky to have a place where I can come, close the door, and do exactly what I want to do.
Yeah. But you're right. It's not like we all have our doors open and we're all walking around with a glass of wine or something.
And it used to be that way. It really did. And I first came to New York in 1988. So, now it's funny. I can say, I remember when. But,
sure.
I haven't been here that long, per se, but long enough to remember things like that. But the doors were all open and people were just walking into studios and talking too much, and
sure,
it was fun.
Interrupting in a way sometimes.
Okay. But it was, it was a joy. It was great. But, you point out that, okay, now we have to get outside of our front doors and make a little bit of an effort to see who's around.
Yeah.
And you can create your own community, and community is what everybody craves, even more now than ever.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think you could say that it's more crucial now. It's more crucial now that we are locked into our phones as a society. We're heads down. We're not looking at each other. We're not visiting each other. We think a Zoom call or a Skype call is enough, And those technologies are all very convenient, but they make you complacent, because in the old days, there was none of that.
Yeah.
If you wanted to meet somebody, you had to call them, or you had to knock on their door. And so people's doors, people's lives were more open, I would say. It's a bit of a paradox. A healthy community is like a healthy paradise. Like, you don't notice it because they're healthy. It's only when you get some sort of aberration or defect or something happening with your eye that needs attention, that's when you start noticing it. And so we don't notice community until it leaves, or until becomes dysfunctional. I mean, I grew up in one town for 18 years. Mm-hmm. So all my parents and neighbors, like kids, grew up together. You take it for granted. You don't notice it, right? And then when it's gone, or when you leave mm-hmm. and come back, then you realize, oh, wow. I grew up with that small town sense of community. Mm-hmm. People who knew me since I was a little kid, people, teachers, mentors, the church, all of that sense of small town, community. And I've sort of been searching for it ever since, A different kind of community exists within the armed forces. A different kind of brotherhood mm-hmm. Exists in that shared experience. But everywhere I've moved, and I've moved a lot since leaving home, it takes time to find your new group of friends or your new core of, community everywhere you go. And I moved here in 2012, so I've been here for a minute. Mm-hmm. And I moved in this building in 2019. And it's only been in the past 2 or 3 years that I've really started to find my community here in New York, in the art world, in this building. Mm-hmm. And now they're my main group of friends. They're my mm-hmm. main group of people that I go to for advice,
I think those are actually the tenets that we all need to really realize once again. There is a little bit of earning the right to be here and to be knowing each other and to appreciate each other. But it's not artists just have a pretty unique and a life-affirming perspective, I think. Even when they're, social realists, there's still something like, what am I believing in? What am I fighting for? It's something that I really believe in, and it's something that most people don't think. They don't take the time to do that. They're mostly, living in the world of making a living, which is totally valid. It's just too mm-hmm. bad because we don't often have that capacity to be able to question, to look outside what we need to do to what we would want to do. That's our unique privilege.
It is a privilege, really, to be here and to have the space and the opportunity to follow that inspiration. I have to do this. I have to do this kind of art, and I believe in it. And I'm just always fascinated that artists have this impulse. And it goes back 30,000 years to when we were painting in caves. Like, why?
30,000 years ago, cavemen painting these exquisite, beautifully rendered replications of animals and environment on their walls with whatever, oxides that they found on the ground or whatever. And I grew up listening to cultural anthropologists' theory that, well, if they paint the bison on the wall, that spiritually means that's going to bring the bison to them, and they're going to be able to survive, kill, eat, live another day, all because of this magical thinking.
Okay.
And I was thinking, well, what if they just plain are responding to the beauty around them and they had to make these paintings? And it's, once again, it's got no pragmatism to it, these paintings. They're just this beautiful fountain of inspiration and adoration for nature.
Right. And what sustained these people? What did they need more than anything? They needed to hunt. They needed these bison or antelope or whatever it was. And so this source of life for them, source of survival, became a source of beauty and admiration and respect.
That's good. So maybe there's just a confluence of both. Yeah. It's not neither one nor the other.
Yeah, it's not like I'm here to conquer you. It's the Bushmen in the Sahara pay the same respects to the deer that they killed and chased down, because they know that every part of that deer is going to go to good use. They're going to respect the life that they took because it's going to give life to their family. Much different approach. Like did you grow up on a farm or around animals at all?
Well, I grew up around animals, but it wasn't a farm.
Okay. So did you ever kill chickens or rabbits and eat them?
Oh, no.
So, but I did.
Okay.
And so and my sister has a farm in Oregon. Death is part of it, daily life, But you have a respect. Like I had a respect for the animals that we raised and butchered and then ate. People lose that. Now, I don't know, I'm getting way off topic because we're talking about why do we create art, but there's an impulse, there's a survival instinct. Mm-hmm. There's some primal urge that we have to make something, paint, to create. It's not utilitarian. It's an expression.
No, but what you just told me, though, another door opened because I was saying, what if it's this and not this? But really, they come together.
Confluence, I think.
Which I'm really, could use the word, guilty of Western thinking. Okay. But things sort of have separate silos.
Yeah.
But when you're in other cultures,
everything's connected.
It's
interrelated.
Yeah, there's no difference. There's no fine art versus, the tapestries that I'm going to make that are going to, that are absolutely gorgeous and are also going to keep us warm, or they're going to be the inside my hut to insulate it, or however it's going to be on the bed. That's not the way I think.
Yeah.
I'm haven't been raised that way.
I mean, I know what you mean, though. We tend to compartmentalize in the West. And that's why when we talk about community, this building is not just a bunch of compartments. Any other commercial space, that could be true. Mm-hmm. Where nobody needs to talk to anybody, nobody does talk to anybody. Each floor is just a random assemblage of tenants with various leases. And that's it. But here, this is an ecosystem, this is a community. We exchange, we support, we listen, we care, we inspire each other. That's not compartmentalization. That's cohesion.
Yeah, that's a very successful model. Just as you're saying this, I'm realizing that's what we've kind of built ourselves separate from each other over time. And that's where we are right now at this tipping point where we really need to decide, do we stay in these compartments, or do we realize that we've evolved into something that is unsupportable in terms of living as a country and living in this experimental country that we do?
Well, look at how we've compartmentalized ourselves now. It's not based off of geographic location and commonality. It's based off of some algorithm placing us in a bubble of information that random strangers scattered across the world and across the country share that bubble, and then they all say the same things that they want to hear. And so it becomes isolating. And then other bubbles conflict with those other bubbles. And so now we're just so polarized there is no community there. I think the antidote for what we're seeing in the world right now is this word community. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are talking about it. Yeah. I've never heard it used so frequently.
Absolutely. That's what I love about really good art, is that it's nuanced, and it's not all good, it's not all evil, it's somewhere in the middle. And the best characters in plays and in movies are the ones that have a little villainy to them, they have a little sainthood to them. They're not all one thing.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it. That's why I am so in the thrall of Philip Guston. because his paintings they're
full of humor and
menace.
Yes.
And cultural immediacy.
You know what else about him that is so relevant today is this, they revel in their villainy.
His characters, you mean?
Real life.
Oh.
Like when these Oval Office meetings that are now making the news, they are loving this. The cruelty, they are loving their own cruelty. And when you see Philip Guston's KKK smoking, driving the car, hooded masks, these figures, they're having fun.
Yeah.
They're these bastards that are having fun at this cruelty. And so it's not just the humor in it, but it's also the tragedy of it,
We're lucky that we have these intentions, that we are driven to these abstract ways of being in a way that means something to us and hopefully means something to the continuum of the world in general, of culture and of living with others and back to community again, all this, the network of ways that we come together.
It connects people. I mean, art brings people together. Even if it's just two people. But usually it's more than that.
I keep thinking about that. Or I do more than that. I say, I think art can change the world. I think art can save the world. And it's not art coming in on a white charger with the shield and the lance, but it's, part of it is just the purity that comes from making something that we can't deny in ourselves, that is creation.
Yeah.
It is not destruction.
Right.
It is not self-involved. It is not even stasis. It's just a wonderful, unique thing that, what are we doing on this planet? Well, I guess that's it. We have the proclivity of making really, if not beautiful, at least expressions of ourselves, an attempt to reach out to humanity and join hands. This is who I want to portray myself as. I hope part of this speaks to you too.
Yeah.
And hand it down to this chain reaction. And I think now people forget that the good things that we've done a little bit or a lot.
My project really is evolved into documenting this community. And so how am I going to do that? I'm going to give each person the space and the time and the platform to just...
It's very magical for us. Thank you so much.
It's magical for me too.
That's good. Yeah, and I
really is.
Appreciate, this is another way art, I don't know how you start your paintings, but sometimes you just have to start and then it starts to tell you the direction. And this project seems like it told you how big it needed to be, what it really needed to be.
What it really needed to be.
Yeah. And even with the focus on the Naftalis, it's like Raymond's arms just got bigger to hold your bigger project.
Yeah.
It was no problem at all.
Yeah, and they would absolutely understand if they were here today and I said, hey, look, this project, it started out with your story, but it's getting a lot bigger. And they're like, absolutely, this is bigger than us. And they knew that when they started this building. This was starting a community from scratch. They made it bigger than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't some personal vanity project of theirs. This was a passion that they invested their time and their money and their lives. This was their life's work.
It really was.
This community.
It was a reflection of their, I like to see it as kind of parallel, like the lives that they built for each other and the lives and how they projected those out to embrace something new, a big, huge art project that they started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to compare them to patrons of the past, but for us, they're the Medicis. They're these patrons that created this magical place out of nothing.
Right.
Out of a garment district factory kind of warehouse that was close to the river. Nobody was out here. There's pimps and prostitutes hanging around. They're like, no, there's a vision here.
I wonder how many of the avenues and the different buildings around realize they don't.
Where they come from, what they inherit.
What they inherited.
What they inherit.